Yes, welcome to another episode, my lords, ladies, and gentlemen. I always love the fact that bored is in here first every time, and if you don't know where the board originates from, then you know it's not exactly because he's bored. He's actually interested, and that's why he's here, and that's why you're all here. So thank you for tuning in and giving us your time, your ears, and whatever electrical activity happens upstairs. If I'm speaking quickly, it's because I'm excited. I want to get to the point where I bring on the guys because I've been speaking to them for what feels like about 18 months straight. And I think it's about time that we shared it with all of you in terms of some of the things that we've been talking about. The conversations are very applicable to what we do here. So, ladies and gents, with that in mind, I introduce the guys. Yay! The crowd goes wild. It's at times like this I actually wish I do have a. Oh, I do have a sound effect. I can do it. It's cheesy, but I love it, gents. Thank you for giving your time up this week. I know, well, because I've been a part of it, so I know how busy you are. But just to kind of get the stuff out of the way for people that maybe don't know you, I like just who you are. Just kind of an introduction. Think of it as your time on blind date. Who's going
My name
first?
my name is my name is JD. I'm 43. I like long walks on the beach. Um, um, I am an integral theorist, hypnotist, a student of psychology, sociology, and education for people and consciousness around the world.
Amazing. Thank you, mate.
I'm Alexander Orlandis. I'm not sure why I'm on a dating show because I'm married, so I don't know. I co-run the Tycoon Academy, and so it's basically applied philosophy. How do we live a good, rich, rewarding life?
Amazing.
Hello, I am Julio. I am the director of the Erickson Institute. I am a psychologist and hypnotist. So my background is more based on therapy and teaching hypnosis. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's great. Thank you, Ben.
So I'm John, also CEO of Your Charisma Coach, and just absolute, just someone who is obsessed with social dynamics, coaching, and just helping people along the way of their coaching journey.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Now, I shouldn't be the one to say this because it's going to be very obvious how strong and prevalent my bias is towards you guys. But there is a reason that I've kind of collected you all here for others to get a peek in on, and we've been operating under this kind of nom de plume of the mentat, and yes, we are deductionists in this particular podcast. But the work, the kind of ethos, the skill set of the mentat is directly kind of transferable towards this particular philosophy. So maybe you guys can, I obviously know, and I brought you guys here for a reason. So maybe tell the listeners a little bit about who the mentat are and why they've inspired parts of our work this week.
So I'm happy to jump in as an intro here and other people fill in stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, so first of all, the word mentat, it comes from a sci-fi novel, Dune. Of course, you guys are no doubt aware of it. And in that, there were advisors, there were human calculating machines, they were the strategic advisors to the great dukes, the great houses of that particular novel series. I think the reason we chose it is because it illustrates for us what we're trying to do here in this group is to develop people's mental faculties, just like you're doing here with deductions, inductions, abductions, learning things that are present in our environment, but not immediately obvious. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the modern equivalent to a Renaissance man, right? This is how can you develop your personal faculties to the max. And so as Olympic athletes are to a physical and achievement, mentats are towards a mental observational level of achievement that's equivalent. That's kind of my working definition.
Nice.
For
Gents?
me, one of the big reasons why I wanted to put a group of individuals like this together was because it's my belief that in the coaching industry, therapy industry, personal development, self-help, that a lot of the ethos around being a coach is to self-isolate. And it's to say, I'm supposed to niche and I'm supposed to, only find my one area of expertise, and that we are exhausting in our separate silos in the world what we can do alone. And then what happens is if we really want to take humanity and quantum leap it to its next evolution, especially around mental, emotional, virtuous, behavioral landscapes, we need to collaborate. And it's about bringing people from a bunch of different specialties and a bunch of different educational backgrounds together to create a more integral approach for what will become the next actual educational system for humanity as its consciousness increases. And so the mental landscape being one of the foremost places we can begin that journey, but it is not an exhausted field. And so this is the beginning of something that's going to probably, I hope, quantum leap what will become the next integral approaches as we as a species move forward into the future.
Yeah, and as JD was saying, there are different approaches to this. It's not only the internal one, it's not only the more mental one. Is also about the connection with other people, about the connection with the environment, how you relate to the environment, how you relate to other people, and how you put all that information together and how can you make out of it. And also, apart from this, even bigger is the way to transmit these ideas. This is a whole new thing, how these ideas are going to be transmitted to other people, what is the teaching method, and how are going to develop this whole new being.
So nice. John, anything?
With all that said, another thread that we've been exploring in a massive way with the mentat program is legacy, pushing our clients to a place where they're connecting to their legacy while having the tools, the methods, and the methodologies to really achieve what they want to achieve, but also connecting it to their role in the world and also the roles that they're going to create through the legacy, for the ideas and the wealth they want to transmit through generations. So that's a massive part of this work that we're doing.
Love that. Love that. If I could get up on my feet and yell preach without looking like an idiot, I'd do it. But like, just to say to you lot that are tuning in live, if you have any questions for the guys, as and when it pops up, whack them into whatever chat you're viewing this from, and I'll stick them on the screen, and we'll see what these geniuses can pull out of it. Now, obviously, there is a dorky, nerdy thread that runs through this initially. Right, you might see that from the pipe that's in the middle, or June, or anything else that we've currently looked at. So, one of the questions that I'm curious on your position on, that I don't think we've directly addressed, we've definitely indirectly addressed it, but not directly addressed it, is why is in your opinion, why is it something that it is believed socially, culturally, to not be available as a skill that can be accessed already, right? So we read about it in fiction all the time, 100%. Is it because of that we fictionalize these things, that we don't reach for the next evolutionary skill set in terms of whatever it is? Maybe evolutionary was too lofty of a word, but personal evolution then maybe. What are your thoughts around that?
May I take a stab?
Yeah, go for it, Alexander.
All right, so here's how I look at people. We are an enormous mass of potentials, right? And we know this because I think everyone's had an experience at least once in life where you surprise yourself with what came out of your mouth or your behaviors just when you needed it, right? That means whatever that ability was, it was laying dormant, and it required extreme pressure to bring out. Now, why is that? The way we look at people is, we have this mask, a persona that we project to the outside world. We want the world to understand this mask so we can have social cohesion. People can predict what we'll be doing, and so we're a known factor. The problem is, as we grow up, we begin to believe this mask is all that we are. We think that what we project into the world is the only thing we can do because we're doing it so routinely. It's our habits. And everything that's outside of that mask Well, that seems impossible. We created a boundary just by not crossing the boundary ourselves. So it's not so much a question of, I think most people just don't even know that they can do it. Just knowing it's possible is often enough to get people on the road. And then the second stage, of course, is knowing it's possible and starting to do the work. If your beliefs are still that, oh, it's not me, I've never done this, how am I supposed to do this? And all this internal dialogue starts distracting you. It starts blocking you from those very skills. It inhibits them, law of reverse effect. And so it seems you create an illusion that you can't do something, but you can. You just have to switch your mindset from stress, strain, struggle, this isn't working, to play, fun, see what happens, which I think is one thing you do really well, if I may say so, Ben. This attitude of we should find out, right? And that is the magic key as far as I'm concerned. If everyone can just do that, let's just find out. I guarantee life could get twice as good just from that attitude alone. That's kind of my 2 cents on the whole thing.
Guys listening, I didn't pay him to say that. I didn't.
I did. I love that take, Alexander. I have an additional sociological take on it, which is that oftentimes academia and institution moves at a much slower rate because of the size of a system and the sheer number of people involved in it, that the evolution of a system is much slower than the evolution of an individual or even a small group of individuals. And so as a result of that, the education system that we grow up in doesn't afford us experience. And with a certain number of experiences, a mindset that goes along with those experiences. And so as a result of that, we literally don't know what we don't know. And because we don't know it, we begin to build everything we think we know on only those experiences we have had, which lends itself to what Alexander just shared. It's like once you get this playful mindset of creativity and enjoyment and just going out and doing it first before analyzing it and sitting with it and all the rest of that, it gives birth to the experience that you can then learn from after the fact. So I actually think there is a sociological implication of institutionalized ignorance.
Can I just add something to that? Because I think it's a really important point, right? I'm going to say something hopefully a little bit dramatic, and please don't take it the wrong way here. But I don't actually think we have an educational system. We have an indoctrination system. And here's what I mean. Let's look at the words indoctrination, education. Education comes from the Latin words ex and ducere, meaning to draw or lead out of someone else. Indoctrination means comes from the words in, and doctrina, which is the same word as the doctor or someone who's learned. So the idea is you take your learnings and you put it into someone. Most schooling looks more like indoctrination. I know something you don't know. I will tell it to you. You will repeat it to me, and then we'll keep rehearsing it until you've got it, right? That's not education. That's indoctrination. That's you following what I've guided. Then the problem with that is indoctrination cannot lead to innovation. It never leads to new things because there's only your way of doing it. And if I do something different, it's wrong. And even if actually that wrong is actually right in a different context, it's still wrong. And my mind is labeled wrong, so I never do it again. So I've killed innovation. Education is actually what your channel is all about. Deduction is education. Abduction, induction is education. It's looking inside to make sense of things. Look at the world. I have experienced the world, but how am I going to carve it up? And I'm going to draw it out of myself. And that leads to innovation because you're diving always into the unknown. And in the unknown is where innovation lies. So I would go one step further to the sociological point JD is making and say that our very quote unquote educational system, what I'll call the indoctrination system, the school system, including academia, is the design of it actually inhibits innovation. And that's why most people don't think they can do it, because unless you were taught it at school and told that people can do this normally, then no one's going to explore because we've been limited, bamboozled, if you will, by the indirect suggestion that if it's not being taught, then it can't be learned. Does it kind of make sense?
Which that's very interesting because that takes us to the idea of curiosity. What happened when you put someone in an environment, in the context that is per se creating learning with the resource of curiosity? And that person starts to find out new things, even things that he already know, but he starts to have another perspective completely different. And he starts to discover things and he gets more curious. So sometimes you don't get information, you want more questions. You want the right questions to be answered. That will take you to more questions. And that is the process of learning. You have created an environment, a context in which learning is easy. Because only the context make you access all those resources that you have and you didn't know you have. It's what JD was saying, everything that you don't know that you know. So that's naturally created through the process.
There's a really wonderful book that was is titled Anti-Fragile, and it's written by Nassim Taleb. And one of my favorite points that he makes in the book is that some of the greatest innovations in history have been accredited to scientists, when really they were discovered, explored, and identified by tinkerers.
Yes.
By just crackpot tinkerers that just found a problem, saw a problem, and said, screw it, I don't have an education, but I have to solve this. And because I have to solve it, I have the motivation to be creative in finding a way for me to do it. And that only later, once science has studied what the tinkerer created, do they then come back and give their name to it. And because they give their name to it in academia, they become famous for having, quote, discovered it when they weren't even the one that did. And so that's what we wanted to do, was create a group of us tinkerers who are willing to get together and tinker in our own ways with different types of problems, whether it's psychological or sociological, whether it's consciousness related or emotional, all across the board, in order for us to create an entire new paradigm for how to approach education, growth, development, and true learning from within an individual, echoing out, not from outside coming in.
John, anything?
Yeah, I love the idea of moving away from education in a way that we're talking about going from concrete thinking to abstract, because, you know, we've seen it in our past within educational systems. We have the tendency to move towards the rigid and the concrete, but it's about seeding chaos in an integral way and a creative way that enables us to really shake that model up. Like JD said, we are giving them room, and our clients room, to explore things in a different way so that they can utilize both sides of that polarity when they need to, making them very adaptable. And I think that's what's very exciting about moving away from that model.
John, when you said that, that was really, really interesting. I'm wondering what the relationship you see is between chaos and creativity.
The amount, being from a background where I've had to hone my creativity in many facets, in many different industries, for me, it's the questions we basically dismantling and the questions we have to ask with creativity. I had to break things down to be able to build them up in a different way. So the first thing that you do with a creative task is basically smash it. Like, you smash it up, you pull it apart, you get all the parts out, all the cogs, all the springs, whatever it is, all the pieces of font, type, imagery, you put it out, and so you know what you have, so you can put it back together, building what you truly need in the moment, and not just what you think you need, but what you actually need. And that there is a reverse engineering that is involved there. It can't all come from linear thinking.
May I add something to the idea? Because I think the idea of order versus chaos is something really interesting I've thought about for many years actually now. And this going a little bit more big picture from the concept rather than drilling down to practical detail. So I think order and chaos are analogous to science and magic. And here's what I mean by that. Order is about certainty. Science about certainty. It's about predictable results. I do this thing, and every time this thing comes out, it's over and over again. And the point of this kind of science, this kind of order, is to remove novelty, to remove innovation. Everything has to be exactly uniform as it was before. And there's a place for that. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do. If I turned on my light switch and my light didn't turn on, it's like, one day it'll turn on, one day it won't. I wonder which day it is today. It's not a very useful light switch. So I want science in my light switch. The problem is, with order comes rigidity, lack of movement, lack of change. And so I think, like in a society, if a society gets too ordered, it starts to bind, and no one can move through that society anymore because there's no room for change left in it. Everyone's going to be exactly as they are, and you're going to be forced into your cookie cutter role regardless of what you want. That's why when we get too much order, we need to inject a dose of chaos to, as John was saying, stir everything up, mix it all up, and then reorganize the chaos at a different order of magnitude, shall we say, can encompass more things. And that process is always going. Order builds up certainty until we get intolerable amount of certainty. That means rigidity. Then we need to inject chaos. It all blows up. And then we start over again and start building order again. That's a natural, healthy cycle. If you interrupt that cycle, then you get stuck somewhere within that. If you're stuck in chaos, my God, that's painful because nothing ever goes right. Everything is a crapshoot. If you're stuck in order, that's just depressing because everything's always the same and can never ever change. And you're always stuck in that one reality and nothing ever can be different. The secret is creating enough certainty to be willing to explore chaos. So certainty anchors you, right? The order anchors you in certain core, shall we say, principles. And that releases you from needing the order and everything else. So you can now go off and explore. It's kind of like a lifeline. And you go off in space and explore space. Then when it's time to come home, it doesn't matter if you're lost. You just tug the lifeline and that will naturally bring you home again. And that balance between order and chaos, I think, is precious and important. And unfortunately, as a culture, we really screw it up. We really push towards chaos and order so hard that we create rigidity until something explodes and we go, oh my God, violence and people are upset and what's going on here? Well, what they're saying is culturally, we need some chaos to live, but we don't understand it. So we don't actually have mechanisms to allow organized chaos, chaos that is not destructive, but productive. And that is a question I hope will be answered in this century, because we know all about certainty from the last century. The Industrial Revolution gave us certainty up the wazoo, efficiency like crazy. But what we lost as a result is meaning. And chaos is where we start finding meaning by finding meaningful connections that didn't exist before. So I think John's onto a really important point by linking creativity to chaos, because it's the only way to not get what you've already had.
Just got Heath Ledger's voice from The Dark Knight in my head now. Introduce a little chaos, a little anarchy. Keep things
right?
fair. Right? He wasn't. He wasn't wrong.
The way you went about it was a bit screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, realistically, who's going to set fire to all of that money? Bad action, right? But like it's one of those things I come across in questions about these particular skills all the time. Like, what book should I read? And my answer is always words to the effect of, it's not about the list of books that you should read. It's about your connection to what it is that you're reading in the first place. Just starting is the misplaced step. Like, I was talking in one of my memory classes the other day. Like, have you ever sat back to think about how much you actually know? Like, whether it's tying a shoelace, how to cross a road, your mum's name, whatever. Like how much you actually know, and then you see most people go, like, and so what's the difference between, learning that you don't like ketchup on your chips and this piece of insight from a paragraph in a textbook? What's the difference? Figure that out, and you've got the key to accelerating your learning, the key to breaking free, the key to that kind of chaos in your life that you're currently stuck in.
Can I add something to what you're saying there? Because I think I have a distinction when it comes to accelerated learning, right? As far as I'm concerned, accelerated learning is natural learning. That's our default state. The way everyone learns, however, usually, especially school-induced learning, which is not, in my opinion, the best example of learning mechanisms. Yeah. That's actually, to use the proper nomenclature now, retarded learning. It actually inhibits your learning process. So when you engage the learning process naturally, without inhibitions, without limited beliefs, without emotions getting in the way, without thoughts telling you can't do this, You learn fast, easily, effectively. Look at a child, they don't know any better, so they just do. But when you start adding thoughts and feelings and limitations, and you can't do this and you can't do that, you're actually repressing your learning mechanism. So what's left over is basically a thin stream of learning light, if you will, and behind it is this massive megawatt power learning mechanism that's just shut off by fear or doubt or insecurity or whatever else it might be. Does that make sense?
Crystal clear. Crystal clear. I wish we could have that as a sound bite now for the proverbial people in the back. Right? Are you listening, modern education system? We've lost something that our childhood knowledge was a gift. JD, sorry, I interrupted you.
But no. My favorite part of that is that if you go meta with this, there's a fractal, which is we've actually become too rigid on the rules for personal development and self-help. So it's like we've become overly rigid on the ways we've learned or explored being going through our own personal development or evolutionary journey, which means we actually need to introduce or seed chaos even in what we think should be the way we develop ourselves personally in our own evolution, to perhaps come at the entire theory of evolution when it comes to ourselves in a completely new way. And yet we're scared too much of destabilizing who we think we are long enough to explore who we actually are, so that we can become the true authentic essence of what's possible within us.
And just expand on that, I would say change is chaos. Rigidity, order is normalcy. That's what we're used to. Change requires chaos. So if you can become rigid about change, you're saying, I'm rigid about chaos. That's a paradox. No wonder you don't change. Because you're using the wrong mechanism. I mean, you're literally using a mechanism designed to keep you the same in order to not be the same anymore. That makes no sense at all, does it?
What about the dynamic duo in the corner? What do you guys think?
Yeah, you got anything?
That's you guys.
Oh yeah, sorry. The two gents in the one screen. Two gents. Don't Google that either. Two gents, one screen is a bad video. Don't Google that.
Batman or Robin?
I mean, I'll tell you what, right? Go on, Julio. If you've got something, I was just gonna.
It's just that a lot have been said about chaos and rigidity and all that stuff, which is very, very interesting. But how did you really apply that in your day-to-day life? I mean, we are talking about very abstract things here. How do you create a little bit of chaos in your life? Just enough, as JD was saying, just enough to start to discover new things. How do you apply some rigidity in your life enough to have room for chaos? So, because I think we have the idea clear of how this works, but how do you apply this in your life? And the first thing I would say is what I already said, which is being curious. And start navigating uncertainty in a different way, as you usually do. We used to face uncertainty from fear. We don't like uncertainty, so we protect ourselves. We try to know things that cannot be known. So we create rigidity. So what is the smallest step you can take towards that chaos, that uncertainty, and what can you discover there? That little step is what we are trying to do is the development of different abilities in the person, in the human being, that will give you the map, so to say, how to get to that uncertainty. You know, it's like in the just to use a metaphor, in the old days, there were maps of the world. When the world was not known, there were big maps, just representing the part that was known. And do you know what was the part that was unknown? There was monsters. They used to draw these big dragons and big monsters, and you could read there in that map, Hic sunt dracones, which in Latin means here there are dragons. There be dragons. I don't know. It's too scary to go there. We shouldn't go there until one person was brave enough to take a ship and navigate far enough to start to discover what was there and find out that there were no dragons. There were no monsters. Actually, there was something very interesting. There were new things, new discoveries. So what kind of abilities those people had back then to start discovering what was in that chaos, in that uncertainty? That's what we want to build in people.
Nice. Love that.
Belief, if I may share it,
Please.
is relevant to this. I believe certainty is for amateurs. You can only reach through uncertainty. Because when you knew something, cling on to it. Well, what did I do? Give me the steps. We're clinging to certainty to get the result because we want to predict the results we're getting. Of course, it makes sense. But a master lets go of certainty because he knows the only place for me to grow into mastery of this particular skill is to go where no one else has been before, which by definition means if it's certain, it can't be mastery, can't be, it's just replication. If I want to be a master in my own right, I've got to go where no one's gone before. That means I've got to explore uncertainty. So the more comfortable you are with chaos and uncertainty, the more likely it is you'll reach mastery in any given field. Now, I'm not knocking certainty, don't get me wrong. Certainty is important. You need to root certain things in certainty. But the more tolerance you have for ambiguity, for uncertainty, for chaos, the faster you can grow, the quicker you can explore, and the more you will genuinely learn because life becomes your educator.
Oh, like if we could put all of that on like a giant T-shirt, maybe an apron or something, you know, just I mean, and like guys, for the folks who are listening, listen to the details between the details, right? Though there isn't like you could argue, what do I take from that? You know, Alexander said do this, Julio said do this. No, it's the principle that you apply. It's the principle, and you know, if we were to say do X, Y, and Z, we are, you know, kind of counter-producing the advice that it is that we're looking to share to help you evolve. Right? These journeys aren't fixed; they are as individual as they could ever possibly be. Right? As they could ever possibly be. So here's maybe a big question, arguably a loaded question. So people achieve these skills of the mentat or Holmes or anyone else that they aspire to be, real or fictional. They achieve these skills that we're particularly talking about here. So what? What does that do? What does that do for them?
Well, I think it's a complete waste of time because all are more flexible.
Goodbye, folks. See you next week.
You solve problems faster, you make more money, you're more persuasive, more influential, people like you more, you have really good ideas that are interesting, you pursue stuff that actually is genuinely curious, problems that used to plague you for years just become irrelevant, and you do things you find really satisfying. Aside from those little things, honestly, nothing.
Love that. I'm curious about all of your opinions on this, by the way. Love that.
I'm gonna go global. Hey, when you possess the education, skill, capacity, mindset, and vision, you save, invest, or hold on to the most precious commodity any of us have, which is time. Okay, we are the number of heartbeats we have and the number of breaths we take. Not only can you guarantee that each and every single one of those moments is more full with what makes you feel alive, but it means that you possess the skills to be able to streamline in the most productive way possible, the most energy you can give into and get out of every single moment of every day forever. So that the question you ask yourself about the life you want to live is never one of capability. It's never, can I do it or not do it? It's, do I want to or not? And until we can get beyond capability and into desire, can we really say we're free?
Nice.
Can we really say we have sovereignty? Can we really say we make the choice, as opposed to someone or something else making the choice for us?
Yeah, and I would like to go for circle here, because I would like to say exactly what I started saying, which is connection. Is connecting. I'm going to run away from abstract, like JD. I'm going to go concrete. How much more happy, confident, resourceful will you be if you start connecting to your people and the people you still don't know that you will start knowing in a different way, in a way in which you can help them, help yourself while you are helping them? How much more, all of that and much more can you be if you are connecting to your environment in a different way, even connecting with people you don't even know, and see how they are changing just by your mere presence there. So that's what you can get. That's what is inside of all of us, that we just need to be tapped and be awake inside of us. And that's a process. That's a process in which we are.
Love that. Love that. That kind of made me feel all warm and lovely inside. That was nice. Yeah, I'm kind of giving myself a hug on the back of it.
Do you feel better by just talking to us, Ben?
Yeah, I do. Funny
I
that.
wonder how that happened.
John?
I think along with that connection, the word coming up for me is meaning. A lot of the work that I do on myself is because a big motivation is because there's a true meaning for me being an example in the world. This is when it comes down to integrity and what you want to put out there, like what you want to transmit, what you want to do, and what example you want to be. And as we strive to be a better example in the world, this, for me, doing this work, the meaning comes from also mitigating regret. So that I know that when I am looking back on my life, I have done the work and done the best I can to transmit the example that I truly want to transmit. So it enables us to look back and look upon our lives as something to be relished, something to be honored, and something we can truly be proud of as well. So that truly is like that connection Julio's talking about, moving through the world and connecting to everyone and everything in the way that you truly designed and you chose, for me, is the biggest mitigation against regret that you could ever have.
What I really like about what we just said there, John, is in my mind, it just summarized as live your life as a work of art.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Watch this space. We've got our own line of coasters coming soon with these kind of quotes. I mean, I joke in that sense, but seriously, it is so apt. It is probably the best word for it. There is a Joseph Dunninger quote that is kind of connected here for me, not in the same words, but for those who believe, no explanation is necessary. For those who do not, none will suffice. In that same thing, specific towards motivation, because doing this ain't easy. Right? It ain't easy. It requires the kind of the death of a version of you, really, in some way. but it's like one of the last hypnosis clients I had before I moved on, where they sat down in the chair and went, You'll never be able to hypnotize me. It's never going to work." Cool. And then I left. Seriously, I'm out. I'm out. Done. Like, if I'm not there to battle, I'm there to help. You know, and come talk to me whenever you want help. That's fine. I'm not looking for your belief in this ethereal concept of hypnosis. I'm not looking for that. We're looking to kind of have a conversation. And like when people talk to me, obviously it's specifically about the Sherlock skills, but it's the same thing that's applied. Like I would say to them, cool, with your phone, don't update any of your apps ever again. Just don't. See how well they work. See how well they work, right? So if you come to a moment when in your life, whenever that is, and for whatever reasons, that you're feeling that you need something else, you're going to Google more and more, you're going to the books more and more, you're going to this person more and more, whatever it is. If you fix this, then the rest of that stuff is so much easier by default. By no means easy, but so much easier by default. Guys,
term, isn't it?
what was that? Sorry?
Easy is a relative term. In other words, if you're weak, easy is here.
Yeah.
If you're strong, easy is here. So what is hard for a weak person is easy for a strong person. Hence, the work you're doing is in effect to become mentally so strong that what most people think is hard actually feels easy. So we work harder than we need to. So when it matters, we can work less than we have to.
Gents, I want to be conscious of your time as well. So maybe a final question. If I realize it's a challenge for us as a group because we love to talk at length, and given the opportunity, we will. Obviously, you'll hear more about this project as it evolves in sneakier ways that we've discovered to allow this evolution for people. But if you could kind of give maybe a tidbit, an insight, something that they can apply as a principle outside of anything else that we've discussed so far, just like a Jerry Springer's final thought for somebody looking to open themselves up to these skills, this way of life, right? What's a motivational piece, a something, a little nugget?
May I start?
Please.
Don't wait to be ready because you never will be. Just do it.
Mic drop situation. Love it.
For me, it would be pay attention. Pay attention. We don't pay attention enough. And you can say much more than me about this, Ben. But pay attention in different ways that you are not already paying attention.
Love that.
That would be.
Love that.
Yeah.
Gents?
I think for me it's a lesson right now that's quite prevalent in our team is relaxing into tension. Yeah.
Nice.
That rings true all around my life at the moment and really bringing it into awareness. And I just love that lesson.
Relaxing into tension. Yeah. I like that.
Mine would be develop more clarity on what you want than what's preventing you from getting it.
Nice.
Develop more clarity on what you want than what's preventing you from getting it. If you do that in every single moment of every single day, your whole entire system is designed towards what's waiting for you.
It's like a chocolate dessert. It was so yummy and delicious.
Don't wait to be ready. Julio went right for here's how you do it every day, your attention, right? So bit by bit, we're taking the whole circuit from beginning to end. So nice. We've got the right team.
Hey, Ben.
Perfect. Yes, sir.
Same question.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Realize that there is no power in certainty.
Oh,
I like
crush. And Ben just dropped the mic.
they keep going.
So listen, guys, that's all from us, because we're going to have to fly off to our secret cave and build whatever it is that we need to build that you might hear about in the future. Depends on what circles of the government you're all in. No, it won't go that high. Maybe that high. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But gents, seriously, thank you for your time, and on behalf of all of the people that are listening, thank you as well. I'll speak to you very soon. These guys won't. But thanks again, and I'll see you in the next meeting, gents.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.